Yeah.
Awesome. Well, listen, guys, I want to welcome Mr. Lanier.
See, guys, at home, this is how they go. I just go like this, and then Rod brings us right back. This is how our conversations go all the time.
Pretty much. Yeah, pretty much. So
take it away, Rod. Take it away.
All right, I'm going to take it away. So we are very honored to have Mr. Lanier with us today, and thank you to everybody for joining in. You should have the ability on Zoom and also on YouTube to post questions, comments, anything you want to ask Jason. We will be monitoring that, and we will get around to the questions. So give us time to do that. But please let us know your questions. Jason doesn't need any introduction, but you know, he has been a long time user of Rotolight, and we've been working together for a very long time. We're very privileged to have him on the call.
Yeah, the original master of light, baby.
Absolutely. I'm Rod, CEO of Rotolight, and we're also joined by Dirk. Do you want to say hey, Dirk?
Hi, I'm Dirk. I'm the tall Dutch guy, as I've been introduced.
Absolutely, yeah, with appropriate lighting for Amsterdam.
Of course.
Very good. Well, why don't we kick things off, Jason, with how did you get into photography? You know, what motivates you? And yeah, I'm sure people are interested to hear a little bit about your background and how you came to be in this position.
Well, before we do that, let's get my screen sharing going.
Perfect.
You know, it's funny, y'all. We did a test run of this, and it was perfect. And now just life is kicking us in the behind here. But that was not letting me share my keynote that I've made. I've made a very impressive keynote for all of you guys, and it's not giving me the option to share. Can you guys see my screen?
I can see a folder, so I think if you stop sharing and reshare and pick the keynote option, we should be good.
All right, well, let's take a little look-see. No, it doesn't give me the keynote option again, so it's going to be a lovely day here in the neighborhood.
Okay. Well, if you want to send it to me, Jason, I can get that up. That's the other option.
That's a great option. Let me do that. Oh, you gotta love technology, my friends. You gotta love it. I really do apologize, guys. Huh?
In the meantime, whilst we're doing that, Jason, give us a little bit of. So, how did you get into photography? What was, you know, what kicked things off for you?
What got me into photography really was I was bored of hotels. I worked in hotels for a long time, and hotels have, you know, there's a lot of great stuff to hotels, but at a certain point in time, you kind of reach your saturation point. It's a very interesting industry in that a lot of people really do leave. And so while working in hotels, I just decided that I was going to do something else. So I got into photography, and it's been absolutely incredible.
What was your inspiration?
You know, I always loved photography from the time that I was a kid, and it really gave, you know, I remember going to the Carlsbad Caverns with my dad, and it was a pretty amazing experience to watch him just create pictures. And of course, that time, this is the old age of photography where it's all film, and so at that point in time, we weren't able to see the immediate results that we can see now. But it was just really crazy because I remember just watching him take pictures on his tripod. And this is ages ago. I'm old. So this is ages ago that we're doing this. And we would go, and I would just see the images as soon as he got them printed and done. And it was just incredible to be able to see those results, and to see them capture something in camera after the fact was truly incredible.
I mean, that kind of brings us nicely, Jason, into, you know, kind of that shoot what you see revolution that has been mirrorless cameras. And you know, obviously you've been very synonymous with Sony. By now you're dabbling a little bit with Canon nowadays as well.
Yeah, I was a Sony artisan and worked with them for a long time, which was great. And now I'm messing around with Canon and screwing around with those folks and having a great time of it. And to that end, we've also shot with Olympus and with Nikon. I mean, one of the things that I've loved about what I'm doing now is it gives me the opportunity to work and to do so many different things with different camera manufacturers, because my audience doesn't all shoot Sony, and that's something I had to learn. And so the brilliant thing was being able to take what we do with Sony and translate that to the other other brands that we use. But the honest truth is, I shot Sony for a while, and I still have Sony. I do a lot of stuff with Sony. I still love Sony. The difference is now I have the option to use other stuff. And the other thing that should be said is, in the past, Sony was the only mirrorless option, and I wasn't going to use anything but mirrorless because I believe mirrorless is the future, and now it's the present. And we married mirrorless technology with LEDs, and it was a no-brainer for me. And honestly, I was shooting LEDs way before I shot mirrorless. And so it was like the lighting was ahead of the cameras, and I was waiting for the lighting to catch up. I was waiting for the cameras to catch up with the lighting. And when I started using mirrorless, it was like, oh my gosh, this is amazing to be able to use all of this. And it's been pretty remarkable.
And I mean, just building on that, Jason, so in terms of, for anyone who's not shooting mirrorless yet or is thinking about making the switch, or even if they have recently made the switch, I mean, for you, why do they go so well hand in hand, continuous lighting and mirrorless? What are the advantages there for people? The
advantages are, you use a lot less of your time and money and effort into doing things that don't pan out. Photography is very rewarding. It can also be very frustrating because you put a lot of time and money and effort, and you spend time away from family. You spend all of your maybe extra time if you're just a hobbyist working on photography. So for you to go out and things don't pan out, it can actually get discouraging, which sucks because you get into photography in the first place because it's usually a creative outlet for people. The vast majority of people who come to my workshops are engineers, IT people. They need a creative outlet. And so that's really what it's boiled down to. I'm glad you got it up. So no, it's really what it's boiled down to. And so when you go out and you're shooting with mirrorless, it's really fantastic because you are taking a lot less shots. The shots are much better. And I'll be honest with you, it's funny. I took my boys to Cuba 2 years ago. I bought them all A6000s, and it kind of pissed me off a little bit that the more I was watching them get these shots, and I'm like, damn it, that would have been so hard for me to get like year 2 or year 3 into my photography journey. And here they are getting these shots day 2 or day 3. And that's the huge advantage of doing this, because you're truly taking stills in a way that people use shoot video. So when people have a hard time understanding the relationship between mirrorless cameras and video work, what they really should do is just, even if you don't have a mirrorless camera, what you should do is take your phone and set it up and just use a light. It can even be a little flashlight or whatever, and you'll see how your camera will adjust to that lighting. And that's how videography works. It's how cinematography works. And so it's really beautiful to pair that together. To be honest with you, it's really made the technical much easier, which makes the creativity much more endless, in my opinion.
Absolutely. But I remember, one of the things you said to me before, Jason, was you thought that continuous lighting was probably easier for people starting out learning their lighting journey. Maybe you could just talk about why.
Oh my gosh, dude. One of the main reasons, and I have no problem sharing this, one of the main reasons I went to LED lighting was back in the day when I was starting off in photography, again, Jurassic ages, but and all jokes aside, 12 years ago when I started out, learning lighting was virtually impossible unless you paid an incredible amount of money. I mean, I'm talking $3,000-$4,000 to go to a workshop to learn lighting. And even then you'd only go for it was like a week or something. Very expensive. And people, all I saw online was a bunch of diagrams and this and that. And then, oh, you got to do this many f-stops and this many, and this shutter speed, and this relates to this. And I remember watching a Creative Live many years ago, and they're doing this stuff, and my head was about to explode. And I'm like, I don't understand this. Isn't this just pretty simple? Like, we set our exposure and we get our lighting and we pair them together and it looks freaking awesome. It's kind of like what I've done in the background here. It's not rocket science. And so what I've loved is that if you're new to photography, my friends, if you're new to lighting, if you really have a struggle with flash, there's no easier way to learn than to learn with LED lighting. There truly isn't, because you can set your camera up, set it on your live view, and you can actually see the relationship of your light to your exposure. And it really enables you to start taking better pictures immediately if you take that approach.
Absolutely. So you got a couple of nice shots here, Jason.
Yeah, that's the setup. That's how you guys are watching me right now.
I mean, I guess this is something, you know, with
fancy.
Absolutely, but with COVID-19 nowadays, you know, we're all working from home and we're all doing Zoom chats like this all over the world. I mean, yeah. So talk to us about, you know, how you think people can light that and what your setup is here. So you've got a Neo.
Yeah. So thank you. If you're looking at the picture there, which all of you are, you'll see that the light on this side of me is the EOS set up inside of the illuminator, and that's giving me a nice glow, and it's very, very soft light. You'll also, and if you look at the right side of the picture, you'll see that I have a Neo 2 set up here. The power ratios, that the EOS is at about half power because we're really spreading that light and making it very beautiful. And that's why the light is coming down very soft on me, because to understand, guys, if I had a light just directly above me and it was hitting the brim of my hat, I love wearing my hat for a million reasons, but I love wearing the hat because it teaches lighting. It truly does. It taught lighting to me. And so when the light comes down, if I don't have proper modification, you're going to see a hard line, a hard shadow hitting me. Okay, see, like when I move my face, that's how you test lighting. So on this side, I have the Neo 2, and on the Neo 2, I have like 5 of those little diffusers that you put inside. And if you watch the video, Emily and I did this in Switzerland in an ice cave. I put like 4 or 5 little diffusers. Here, I'll show you. Inside of the Neo 2. So there's about 4 or 5 of those inside the Neo 2. And the Neo 2 is at 1%. So it's crazy, dude, because, watch, let me see that. 1%, I'm not lying. It's at 1%. And so it really shows you guys, if you're trying to do anything online, if you're trying to do anything to light yourself or anything, you can get a Neo 2 and light yourself. I have the luxury and the benefit of having all of this gear, and it's amazing. But you don't have to break the bank to get what you want. What's the temperature on the Neo 2? I can't help but read the comments. It is, it's at 4,400. That's where my skin looks best. I made that last part up.
And then you got an ANOVA behind you.
I do. So you'll also notice another key to lighting, my friends, and this is why I wanted to show all of this was, you'll notice that in my hotel room, the lights, the lamps are turned off. One way to really set up great lighting is you have to cut bad light. I've said that countless times, and I'm going to keep saying it until I'm blue in the face. You have to kill bad light. And when you go into a scenario, if you're shooting a wedding or whatever else, and you get into that hotel room, you have to cut that light, those bad light sources, because it really enables you to control light. You cannot control light when you've got a ton of window light coming in, when you've got, you know, a kitchen light on, when you've got all this other stuff going on. You can't control light. It's about controlling it. And if you look at the video that we did at the Corpse Bride shoot, for example, it's really awesome because we shut down everything and in the chapel in London, and I just made the place blue, which was not the color of the chapel. So it's about controlling that light. So you'll notice on that ANOVA Pro 2, there's an orange gel in that. And we did that to warm the room up, to make it look really, really nice. And I actually did purposely move the light, no joke, so you can see the reflection of the ANOVA Pro 2 in the wall behind me. So you can actually see the circular light. So yeah, we did some fun stuff to make this a little bit more aesthetically pleasing. And one thing I will say is, if you are doing these Zoom chats and stuff online, it gets boring if it's like there's nothing to look at, if it's just boring regular lighting. So taking the time to make it a better experience for everyone is going to give you better results.
Absolutely. So one of the questions we had, Jason, come in that kind of moves us nicely to one of the next things is, Anthony's asking, when did you decide to use, flash versus continuous light? And I guess just to broaden that out a little bit, one of the things that's very unique about the Rotolight technology is that it's both a continuous light and high-speed sync. And so I guess kind of broadening that question is, when would you use continuous? When would you use flash, and why?
That's a wonderful question. And if there's one thing I could teach photographers out there, it's this. You need to make your photography simple. People overcomplicate photography. To be honest with you, and I mean this sincerely, if you spend a decent amount of time working on your craft, anybody can learn the technical. I mean, anybody can learn the technical. The creative part is actually the hard part. The part that people struggle with is whether or not they're creative enough to make their images and their work interesting enough to other people for them to want to see it. That's the truth. Because if you can learn f-stops and so on and so forth, and let's face it, with mirrorless and LEDs, you don't really even need to learn that much as you used to have to learn. I still very much recommend learning everything you can technical, don't get me wrong, but I say all of that to say photography can be easy. It really can be easy, and it's something that everybody can do. It's really something that everybody can do. So that's a long-winded way of saying, here's my approach. I go out, if natural light is good, I shoot natural light. Not rocket science, my friends, but natural light's good about 2 hours of the day. And just being fair, just being honest, most people don't wake up, when great natural light is available in the morning. They just don't. We're creatives. We usually stay up until 2 a.m. and we wake up around 10. That's the way we work, okay? So you're missing, unless you're, shooting, sunrises, you're missing that good light in the morning. So that leaves you with about an hour of good light at the end of the day. So that means the rest of the day, if you want to shoot, you have to supplement light. You have to add light. So I shoot with LEDs as soon as they're powerful enough to shoot. So when I'm out shooting, if I need more light, then I shoot flash. I'll use flash, but I only use it when it's in conjunction with the better light of the day. Y'all should avoid trying to shoot, if possible, you should avoid trying to shoot in the very, very middle of the day. If you're shooting in the very middle of the day and you need a huge, 1200 watt flash or a Titan or something like that, you're going to have to block that light. You're going to need a diffuser or something else. So what you're going to want to do is really have a process to it. So the process is this. Again, if natural light's great, shoot it. From there, what you should do is start supplementing your light. You can add LEDs once it gets a little bit darker, once you go inside, once you diffuse light. So if you diffuse light, you shoot in shade, you shoot indoors, you're going to shoot LEDs. If I need more light, for example, if I pull out a Rotolight and there's not enough light, I strobe it. And if it's still not enough light, then I would add, a traditional strobe. But the times that I add a traditional strobe aren't that often, because I actually tend to shoot, when light's better. So, and then the process is, once the light starts to get darker, the ambient light starts to get darker, then I switch from strobing to LEDs. And you'll find that what you're going to see is the LEDs are going to go down in power. And this is a hard concept for some people to follow. As the light gets darker, ambient light gets darker, the power on your Rotolight needs to go down. And that means your ISO is going to come up. You're matching power levels, my friends. That's how you do it. And if you do it in that way, it's really going to give you much better results.
I mean, on that particular point, Jason, because we've had a couple of questions come in, one from Malcolm Clark, who's saying that, when he's shooting weddings, the cameras they've been using have been struggling a bit at higher ISOs. And in order to avoid grain, he's shooting Sony A7 III. So I guess as an overall question, it used to be the case, several years ago, that older style DSLR cameras, there was a view in the industry that for it to be considered professional, everything had to be shot ISO 100, period. But nowadays, as mirrorless cameras have got better and camera sensors have got better at dealing with low light and noise sensitivity, do you think that logic applies, if everything has to be shot ISO 100? And what do you think about that? How do you approach that in your workflow?
No, great question. And I'll just start off by prefacing it this way, is that if I did everything that pros tell you to do, I wouldn't even be a photographer. I mean, that's just the truth. Oh, you can't do this. You can't do that. Oh, you can't shoot mirrorless. Oh, Sony sucks. Oh, this sucks. That sucks. I mean, guys, there's so many pros who are so stuck in their ways. Just listen to a variety of people, form your own opinions, and go out and try it for yourselves. I'm telling you, man, these guys who think they know everything, it just drives me wild, because truly they're just stuck in their ways like dinosaurs in tar pits. They really are. I think I need to watch Jurassic Park and get dinosaurs out of my head. But what I'm saying is, you don't need to listen to everyone, because people are wrong. People are wrong all the time. We've learned it with everything going on. People are wrong. And so what I would say is this: ISO, yeah, back when I shot a Nikon D2XS, sure, yeah, if I shot anything over 100 ISO, it looked like Legos. It looked awful. But the truth is, nowadays, with most camera systems, you're fine. I remember when I shot with a Canon EOS R, for example, that's a Canon's, mirrorless. It did great on the ISO. You shoot a Sony A9, A7 III, A7R III, you're going to be just fine in ISOs. ISOs don't scare me at all. Here's my take. If you can't get the shot by shooting at a higher ISO, then the shot's not worth taking.
And just on that particular point, Jason, because I know I've seen a lot of questions about this on some of your videos. There was a particular shoot I remember you doing in a suite of a hotel where you were capturing the night, kind of skyline of a city.
Yeah.
At that point, you were shooting maybe ISO 1600, maybe 3200, but the actual Rotolight was on like 8%. And someone might say, why did you not turn the light up and keep the ISO down? Maybe, can you just explain that point for people? Because I think that'd be helpful.
Yeah, absolutely. And this is something that's very difficult. And I say this in all respect. It's always puzzled me that this is hard for. I'll just say this. What you should do is simple, my friends. Again, I'm a simple man. I'm not very bright. I'm not very anything. All I am is somebody who loves photography. So here's what you need to do. Get your camera. Okay, wherever you go, get your camera. If you're shooting the skyline, for example, you don't bring any lights into the equation. That's where photographers get screwed in the head. They bring lights into the equation before they've set their ambient exposure. And if you do that, you screw up. So all you have to do is set your camera down, grab your camera, set the settings. And if you need to shoot at ISO 3200 in order to pull out the colors and the exposure level on the background, then that's where your ISO stays. It doesn't move. So you're looking at a shot of Jack the Ripper. I'm positive that I shot this at, 1600, 3200 ISO. Look at the shot, it looks great. And people are gonna say, oh, how much noise reduction do you do? 0. I don't do any noise reduction on my shots at all. All you gotta do is know how to set the parameters on your camera. So you go in there, you take a shot of the night sky or whatever it may be, and then you add your model to your subject, the person, the portrait that you're going to take. You add that person to the shot, and then you add the light to them. And the light source needs to match the person. And that's why the light source is going to be at 5%, 8%, 10%. It's why this light, the Neo 2, is at 1% right now, because I've added light in the background so that the camera on the computer has exposed for this. And so that enables me to use this at a low ratio. It's the same thing.
And this shot, I imagine, Jason, probably exemplifies that really well, right? Because you've got ambient lighting you're trying to expose. Just talk us through this shot.
Yeah, this is an event that I did with you guys in the Blitz factory in London. And it's a wonderful example because we had to utilize, this was the Canon EOS R. Oh yeah, so Canon EOS R. We shot this with, this is a model named Georgia. The background, so again, like I was saying, she shouldn't be part of the equation at first. You have to expose and set your ambient exposure for that background. So you may not be able to make it out, but that says Amor in the background. And so you're gonna set that exposure for that because you don't want that overexposed. You don't want it just be blown out. So I'm setting my exposure for all the lights in that image. And then what you do is you set your light for her. It really works well. And so this was with the Innova Pro 2 with the illuminator, and it was probably at, I'm gonna guess, 5 or 10%.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, so to sum this up in a sentence, I think what you're saying for people, Jason, is you set your exposure for ambient lighting, and then you use Rotolight to expose for the subject. That's the simplest way of summing that up, right?
Yeah, and guys, stop being scared of these ISOs. Anyone who fear mongers you into not using ISOs is cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs. It's crazy, guys. Don't worry about it. It's fine. Here's the one other misconception too. You can shoot at 100 ISO or 200 ISO, 300 ISO and still have noise in your shots. Noise represents a lack of appropriate lighting. So what you need to do is if you add appropriate lighting, 9.9 times out of 10, you're going to get great shots. It's just the way it works.
So I'm seeing quite a lot of questions come in, Jason, about flash and high-speed sync. And this is a killer image. I love this shoot that you did.
Yeah.
So maybe you could talk us a little bit through this shot and the setup, and also the questions that are coming in, Jason, about what kind of triggers can people use, how do they connect them, and what settings generally are you using in flash mode?
Yeah. So again, back to Mr. Simple, I keep it very simple. Anytime I shoot flash with Rotolight, I always shoot it at the max. So on a Rotolight, guys, that's going to be 1/50th of a second. So the way that the power ratios work is when you hit the two buttons and you turn it into flash mode, you can move the right dial, which will move the power ratios on the light. I always shoot it at 1/50th because my take is this. If you're going to shoot it at less than 1/50th, which is the full power flash output on the Rotolights, then if you're going to shoot it less than that, then you might as well shoot in LEDs. So utilize the flash for what its full power capacity is. And so what in regards to the transmitters, I utilize the Elechrome Skyport transmitter, which I think some of the bundles that we're doing right now, those are like included, which is insane. And there's also a PC sync port on the back, so you guys can actually use a PC sync port to strobe it. So if you already have an existing transmitter system, what you can do is put the transmitter on the camera, and then you use a PC sync port, which is like an audio cable, guys. And you need a transmitter on the camera, and then you need a receiver. You just go buy it. So you look at what the receiver would be for your camera. You get that receiver, and you put it on the back of your Rotolight, and you just use a PC sync cable, plug it in, you're firing. The big difference between this transmitter and doing it one of the ways that I just described is that at least on the Elechrome, you can change the power and the color on it versus the other transmitters where you can't do that.
Yeah, and I guess I've seen a question here coming in about could I use my Pixel King transmitter? So the answer is very simply, if you have a transmitter, like Jason said, that has a PC sync socket, which is the Godox X1s, Pixel Kings, which are all those kind of main brands. Almost all of them have a PC sync port. We have a PC sync cable on the website that's $20. And
there's the PC sync port right there, guys.
Exactly. So it's 3.5 mil into the Rotolight, PC sync into the transmitter, and you're good to go. Otherwise, as Jason says, we have some incredible offers we'll talk about at the end, where we're throwing in the Elechrome transmitter for free, and all of the Rotolights have a Skyport chip wirelessly built in, so it will talk to up to 10 lights in 4 groups separately.
Yeah. So that's another reason, that is the benefit of the transmitter. Just being straight with y'all is then you can fire multiple lights. You don't have to go buy a receiver for each and every one light that you have. So like right now, I have honestly a 3-light setup. If I wanted to strobe these, you guys can see this. If I wanted to strobe these, then I'd have to turn that in flash mode. But if you wanted to strobe it, then you would you want to be able to strobe all 3, potentially. So that's the benefit of the transmitter.
And could you just talk, Jason, for people? I've seen some questions here. I'll just give you my take. I'd love to know yours. People are saying, what's the recommended setting? So just to be really clear on this, when you go into the Rotolights, into the flash mode, we recommend that you leave the duration set to 1/50th. That's the longest flash duration. So if you're shooting any,
I wouldn't even call it longest. That's going to be confusing. It's the most powerful. That's all they need to know. It's the most powerful, guys. So just understand that if you're going to shoot Rotolights in flash mode, don't shoot anything but 1/50th. And now there's going to be some anomalous outlier weird scenario where you would do it, and I could go into those, but for 99% of people, you're going to want to shoot your flash at 1/50th. Because otherwise, like I said, you're just going to use it in LED mode.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the other tip for people is that the Rotolights, all of the Rotolights are brightest at around 4,200 Kelvin.
Yep.
So again, if you want maximum power, again, if you're in an enclosed environment, you can set the Kelvin to whatever you like because the camera's going to white balance to it.
Right.
So generally, I see people ask questions about what color temperature. I think generally, Jason, I don't think you tend to mess about color temperature too much. Is that fair, or what do you think?
I screw around a bit, but I tend to stay, typically within, 3,800 to 5,600 would probably be my range, to be candid.
Yeah.
But yeah, and another great tip, guys, is use a gray card, man. If you use a gray card with these Rotolights, your color is ridiculous. So gray card is $20. And I've done a tutorial there's a Rotolight tutorial on my YouTube channel on how to do that. And it makes your shots, like if you go back a couple of slides, the shot of Emily in the orange outfit, Rod, that's the video. And it is, it's like a little bathing suit, one kind of a thing, but it really is, the gray card really makes a huge difference. Yeah. With your color. And if you look at her skin tone, guys, when you look at color and all that, it's all about skin. You want to make sure people's skin tone looks natural and good. So that's what it's about.
Fantastic. And Jason, I think, bringing things to kind of current context, COVID-19's had a big impact on all industries, quite frankly, but photography and filmmakers have been hit very hard, with social distancing and weddings not happening and so, different restrictions on shoots. So I guess, I'd love to know what your experience has been and what do you think photographers or filmmakers should do to protect their livelihoods, at this difficult time?
That's a great question. And to be candid, if you guys have followed me, you'll know that throughout this COVID-19 experience, we've maintained a lot of all of the protocols that you should for social distancing and being careful with other people and PPE and all that other stuff, but we've kept working. The programs that qualify, that a lot of people qualify for, don't apply to a lot of entrepreneurs. They just don't. Especially if you run a small business like I do, those payback loans that you have don't apply to people like me. They just don't, because I don't have a staff that I'm paying. So in other words, there's really no option but to keep working. And so what the future is like for photographers, I think what you're going to see is it's going to, depending on how hard the financial impact is, the economic impact, I think what people have to do is really be very cognizant of the fact that you are going to have to work harder for less money. And you have to be okay doing that for a certain amount of time. That means that people are not going to pay you as much for weddings. They're not going to pay you as much for whatever else. And that dovetails into like the most recent video we just made. Like, we're filming a documentary on COVID and we've been doing it for 6 weeks. And it's taken us all throughout the country and we're driving to do it. And it's taken us to some very incredible places and opportunities. But one of those was we were in New Orleans, and it was the day after New Orleans opened up, and we met some guys on the street. And we ended up filming a music video, and this shoot that we did here, and it was so incredible, Rod. I'll just be honest with you, brother. It was so incredible because I'm sitting there on the street and I'm filming a documentary about COVID, and I meet these artists and we start chatting and having a really good time and just asking them what they do and so on and so forth. And then he said, "Hey, how much would you charge us to do a music video?" And I don't know. I was just like, man, this is tough times. And hell, I got all my Rotolight gear. What the hell? Let's record a music video. And so we did it. And I didn't charge him, by the way. And we ended up doing the video. And it was so insane to be able to utilize one lighting system for not only all of the video work, but also the stills. So you're looking at a shot. This gentleman's name is Nelly, and we did a video of him, and all three gentlemen actually. But we did a video of this, and this was the Neo 2 in flash mode inside of the Illuminator. And why did I use the Neo 2? It's simple. It's easy to use. 9 times out of 10, guys, when you see my lighting choices, if the light can do it, that's the light that I use. I use the least amount of gear possible, because if you do that, your footprint's smaller and you can get better shots. So how's it going to relate to the COVID age? I think photographers are going to have to be very cognizant of the fact that you're going to have to do more. You may do video work. You may end up being able to do different things. And if you're hungry enough and if you want it enough, you're going to do that stuff, my friend. You really are. So just keep that in mind when you're out there working in the COVID age. Try not to find yourself or put yourself in a position where you're a one-trick pony. Try to do more. I mean, throughout the course of my career, I love it when people say, Jason, you're known for being a wedding photographer. I'm like, I haven't really shot weddings for 5 years. Or you're a portrait photographer. Well, I did a lot of that. I've done a lot of different things, and it's really enabled me to do a lot of different stuff. Somebody just asked, how long do I take to edit? Not a lot of time. And it's because I actually take so much time to focus on what we're doing in camera. So, you know, because if you're looking at the picture of Emily here, because I expose for the background and because I light for my foreground on my subject, there's actually very little post work that needs to be done. You know, one of the trends these days, and has been for a good minute now, has been, you know, this, they shoot everything natural light and then they just drag it up in post, and some of it looks very pretty because they're doing a lot of composites. It's almost all composites. But if you guys understand the amount of post-production that takes, it's very laborious. So just keep that in mind. There's a lot of different variables to think about when you're thinking about how you're going to deal with this this work after the pandemic.
That's great advice, Jason. I mean, I think, I guess, coming back to on the Rotolight side, you know, one of the things I think you've said before is the flexibility of having a light that you can use for stills and video, like you did with this New Orleans shoot.
Yeah.
Can you talk a little bit about what lights you used on a music video and the flexibility of going from video to stills mode, you know, and a wedding, like on a dance floor, it's the same principle, right?
Yeah, so let me give you, that's a great example. So just real quick on the music video, we went from shooting the Titan and the Nova Pro 2 during the middle of the day to shooting the EOS and the Neo 2 later into the evening. You know, people are going to ask what light do you know what light should you use at what time? That's just going to be what the light will give you. The EOS and the Neo 2 are going to work great as it gets darker. The Neo 2 and the EOS, I absolutely love that. Those are my two go-to lights. If you guys want to know the truth, it's why they're the lights currently illuminating me on this live stream. And the reason for that is because they're portable. And if you know me, I don't like to be restricted. I love that portability factor. So if I was shooting a wedding, here's what you do. So you're shooting a wedding, it's the reception, they're doing the dance, you put the Neo 2 up, and it's going to be more than enough light unmodified. Trust me on that. Trust me, it'll be a lot of light. But then let's say you put it inside of an illuminator or another modifier, and you modify that light to make it softer, and you still want to shoot. I've done this countless times. You put it on, and if it's not enough light, I'll just tell my assistant, hey, pop that sucker into flash mode. They pop it into flash mode. Once it goes into flash mode, it's twice that power output, and boom, now I'm firing and I'm getting great stuff. So it's having that ability to transition between LED to flash is huge. And I've used that countless times. If you put up a Rotolight product, guys, here's all you do. You shine it on your subject's face and you take a picture. If it's great, you don't need to flash it. But if you are not getting enough light, then you just turn to strobe mode, and before you know it, you're getting great stuff.
No, that's great advice. I mean, Dayton asked exactly that question, which light to use for which shoot. I mean, we've got a couple of beautiful examples here, Jason. Maybe you can just talk us through a couple of shots. So this is Neo 2, right?
Yeah, that's the Neo 2. We did this at a workshop, and it was pretty funny because what we did was, this was a parking lot in Houston, and one of the attendees had a nice Mercedes, and he said, hey, can you do a few shots with my car? And then we had the model. Her name is Veronica. And so what we did is somebody had an ice cooler, a cooler, and it was at the end of the workshop. So it had a lot of, water in it. And so we took that ice cooler and we wet the pavement to give it a really nice look. Because if you look behind the car, it's dry. Then what we did is we put a Neo 2 underneath the rim of the car to illuminate the undersiding of the car and the tire. And then what we did is we took a Neo 2 inside of the, like an illuminator, and lit the model with it. And that's the process, guys. And again, I love to see this. And if you guys are shooting out there, put your camera on a tripod and watch the live screen. It's like, guys, that's how I set this up for the Zoom. I turned the Zoom app on and I saw how the lighting worked and I set it up. And you're going to do the same thing with your cameras. I also love to show this because people underestimate what that little Neo 2 can do. And as you can see, it does quite a bit. All these were shot in Hawaii with Miss Emily with the Neo 2. The one on the left was the two on the ends were shot both with the illuminator, and the one inside was shot with no illumination, or no modification, I should say. So it really gives you the options to do a lot of stuff.
Just talking about the illuminator, Jason, just talk to us briefly about why you use that and why you like, because you developed this with us. So, talk a little bit about that. Well,
the honest truth is that with the illuminator, I was using other modifiers. You guys know I was using other modifiers before this, and they were just too small. And I was finding that I could get the Neo 2s inside of them, but I couldn't get other stuff inside of them. It was a struggle to get the EOS inside, and it was a struggle to get like the AP2 inside. And I really wanted that modification of light. And so this really spreads the light. And I think this is still the prototype that I'm using. And so it's very durable. When you're loading it, guys, one thing about loading this modifier and any umbrella bracket modifier, you cannot force it. I watch people do that when they're commenting. You can't force the modifier because it'll break the stem or the rod. And that's going to be on any umbrella bracket that you would use. So what you're going to want to do is angle that, and there's a video out on YouTube how to do this. Angle that down and then load the stem of the umbrella through, and it's going to be golden.
Yeah, beautiful. We've had someone, Jason, who loved this shoot that you did with Emily. Maybe you can talk through a couple of these shots. So this was your setup, and then we've got a couple of beautiful result shots coming up here as well.
Yeah. Again, that shoot was done with the Olympus, and we put the illuminator. One thing that I love to do is that's not the illuminator. One thing I love to do is if I go into a studio environment, I love to see what the lights can do. I love to see what the lights can do, what the modifiers that exist there. And that's actually what gave birth to something like the illuminator, was taking all those best practices and using them. So this is just a huge parabolic umbrella that I own. I love that the huge blanket effect that it puts down for illuminating the subject. The only negative to something like this is there's a lot of light loss. There's a lot of light leak. And again, that's why we created the illuminator, which captures that light. You'll also notice that there's an EOS on the right side of the frame that's giving some accent lighting onto Emily as well. So
the result, of course, beautiful.
Yeah, and it's just awesome. And that's what gives her that very soft graduating effect. If you look at the one with her on the red chair, that's actually multiple shots. The key light is the EOS, but that's multiple shots there. That's an AP2 behind her that's casting a red glow onto the back wall. And actually, if you look behind her leg, between her back leg and the chair, you'll notice it's glowing red. That's a Neo 2 with a red filter inside of it, which gives it that effect. And so, I don't know, I just love the artistry of photography, and I love creating things and doing things in camera. And people are asking how long it takes for me to edit a shot. Not a long time, truly. It really doesn't. I do a little bit of skin softening. I add an overlay to the shot just for a little bit of texture. And I move the sliders around a little bit, but that's about it. That's about it. The shot on the right, the black and white, yeah, that's a studio shot that we did with the EOS. And there's natural light coming in from the back. That's another thing you guys can do, is pair your lights with, natural light. You really can do that quite a bit. I use natural light as a feel quite a bit for the work that I do, and it really adds a beautiful effect.
So Dayden asked the question, Jason, which, I mean, the shot on the left talks about it quite nicely, but he talks about the use of gels. When would you use gels, and would they work at a wedding? I guess, if you need to work fast and you're following someone, you could still use some of the provided diffusions if you don't have time to set up a softbox.
Well, if you look, there's one of the slides here that's we shot Emily in a boxing ring, and the reason I share that is because that's with the Innova Pro 2. But we did the same thing. We put a bunch of the diffusers. Maybe it's not in here, but we put a bunch of the diffusers in it to really soften that light. And that's the same as the gels for those who don't understand. Here's what we're talking about. These are the different ones. These can go into the Innova Pro 2s, and there's ones that go into the EOS, and these smaller sizes fit into the Neo 2s as well. And so I utilize these quite a bit. I would really recommend folks to check out the video that I did in the ice cave with them, because it shows how we did that. In regards to the coloring, you guys see the results. Look at that red one on the back, on the picture on the red. It adds so much to that. And look at how much it adds to this. Look at how much it adds just to this live stream, having this golden, gel on the back. It adds quite a bit.
Yeah, absolutely. And moving up in terms of the product, so could you help people understand, Jason, the power differences, say, between a Neo, an EOS, and a Nova?
Yeah, no problem. So a Neo 2, guys, you're going to use, if you're a wedding photographer, if you're a portrait photographer who shoots primarily indoors, and or you're somebody who shoots a lot of video work, a Neo 2 is going to be the light for you. The Neo 2 strobes, all of the light strobe, guys, all the lights have color temperature available to them. But that's where you're going to really use a Neo 2, is in those circumstances. It's not going to overpower the sun in the middle of the day. Don't expect it to do that, because it won't. But it will give you really great light. And again, I just love what it's just even doing on this. So see there, you can see what I'm getting from just the illuminator, but then you can see how beautiful that light is just coming in just from that Neo 2, and it's just set up on a little Gorilla Pod type thing. That's when I would use the Neo 2. The EOS is twice the power of that's 3 times the power of the Neo 2, and it really gives you the opportunity to do some more stuff. The EOS is my favorite light. It has handles on the back. It gives you the ability to really use it portably, which is fantastic. So if you look at my portfolio, a lot will be shot with the EOS for that reason. It's just very easy to use. 9 times out of 10, if I'm outdoors with the EOS, I'm going to be using it in flash mode, unless it's darker in the day. And it's also a really good thing, guys. The one thing that I love about using with the Rotolights outside during the day is it gives you a pop of light. If you think back, I did a video with Maddie in London 3 or 4 years ago, and it was just with the Neo 2 on the top of my camera, and I said in the video that it adds a kiss of light. It's like this little beautiful just hint of light, and it gives you that catch light in the eyes without it being overbearing. So it's a way to use artificial lighting without making it look too fake, I guess, if you will, when you're outside. So the Innova Pro 2 is in doubles again. These guys keep doubling up power-wise. The Innova Pro 2 that's for some serious work in studio work. And of course, you could use the EOS inside studios all day, guys. The Neo 2 and the EOS, if you don't have a crew with you, if you're kind of by yourself, the EOS and the Neo 2 are going to be the easiest to use. The Innova Pro 2 is going to be more for when you really need some more power, because it is a lot of power. It is very heavy duty. The batteries last about 2-3 hours on these, maybe little over 3 hours on the batteries on these guys, and give you the ability to really power your light and do some really cool stuff. And there you go. There's a picture of Maddie on the right. You'll see that we shot in the middle of the day in London, and it was one of the rare days where London had virtually no clouds. And we got some great shots of Miss Maddie there using the light. And you actually see the reflection of the light in the water that she's pouring. It's pretty cool. So, and we were strobing that. So if you're going outside with the Rotolights, I think the best rule of thumb, unless it's later in the day, in the evening, is to strobe the lights. And if it's earlier in the day, then, or if it's later in the day, then just use them in LED mode.
We had a question, Jason, about this particular shot. Was this flash or continuous? How did you do that?
Which one?
This one? Yeah, this one.
This one I used in flash mode because we had so many raindrops coming down. And if you look at the ground on the bottom, that's an Innova Pro 2, and that is with It has a rain poncho on it. So I honestly think it needs to be said that one thing that I love is any gear that I use is going to be used. 9 times out of 10, or maybe 7 times out of 10, my Rotolights are not on a C-stand or a light stand. They're on the ground. They're getting utilized. They are really getting used. And my take has always been you use, but you don't abuse your gear. So yeah, those were in strobe mode.
And in a shot like this, Jason, I mean, one of the things that's unique about the Rotolights is the lack of recycle time. Can you just talk through how that would be an advantage to yourself?
Well, it's an advantage because if you can, one of the key, there's 2 things that really frustrate photographers when you're shooting and you're feeling a shoot and things are going really great and you really love what you're doing. There's 2 things that really mess up a shoot: the buffer on your camera and the recycle time on your flash. Those are the 2 things that make you just want to, choke your gear. So I think if you can utilize a light, that if you can get the power that you need out of it, I think it's a fantastic thing to be able to have a light that has no recycle time. It really is. Let me see here.
And Dirk, whilst Jason's setting that up, is there anything else we want to fire off to Jason, question-wise?
I've got some great questions here, and I've just been holding off since I didn't want to disturb your bromance over there, and you guys had that great flow, so I've just been holding on those.
All right, we'll come back to that then, Dirk. No problem.
It's crazy, guys. When we say no recycle time, we mean no recycle time.
I mean, and just for context, people, I mean, with a lot of traditional flashes out there, strobes on the market, speed lights, you can do maybe 150, 200 full power, 1-to-1 flashes on them before the battery's dead.
Right.
With the Sony A9, you can do 20 frames a second. So in theory, in 10 seconds, you're out of power.
Yeah. Now the Sony A9, you can't do that in flash mode. You can only do that because it's an electronic shutter. But yeah, I mean, the point is there's cameras 10, 15 frames a second. You could be out of power very quick. So yeah, it's pretty insane to be able to use I guess what I want people to know more than anything is it releases you creatively. I think that's what I want people to really take away from this, is the release that it has for you to be able to get what you want. Because I don't know about the rest of y'all watching this, but man, when I've been on a shoot and things are going well and you hit your buffer or you hit that recycle time and you miss shots, it's a killer, man. When I'm in an environment like this, with the shot of Emily, it's pouring rain. We have a time limit at the studio. It's the right moment, the right time. And then, flash doesn't fire. Flash doesn't fire. Dude, I'm not about those games. I'm not. I'm about getting into the studio, paying for my 1 or 2 hours, getting out and having great shots. And I absolutely love the ability to have no recycle time on my lights. I really do.
Fantastic. And so just to finish the lineup, Jason, because we were talking about power and how EOS was 3 times a Neo and then Nova's double an EOS. And of course, the latest Rotolight product in the range is the Titan. And you did an awesome video showing off some of the things it can do. But talk to me a little bit about that. What did you think of it, and where could you imagine yourself using it?
The Titan is truly incredible. It's incredibly bright. I absolutely love the ability. Let me restart. One thing that people have said about my photography, and this has been going back many years now, is that it resembles the way a cinematographer would approach still photography, and that's very true. And so anything that I've utilized with Rotolight has always been along those lines of what can we do from a cinematography standpoint that I can translate into stills, but also a cinematography. So the Titan is incredible. If you're a filmmaker out there, if you're looking to make films, if you're looking to do outdoor portraits with unlimited light, it's truly incredible. And the softness on the light. And I'm going to be straight with all of you guys watching this. Okay, so about, I don't know when it was, Rod started talking to me about the Titan, I don't know, a year and a half ago. And he's like, it's got smart diffusion. It's going to diffuse itself. You know what I thought? BS, man. That's not going to work. Are you kidding me? Who are you trying to sell? And so the first thing I did when I got that Titan was I'm like, let's see about this smart diffusion. And then you turn that damn thing and I'll be darned. It diffuses itself. And that's really revolutionary, my friends, because we're so used to always having to have, modification on lights. So the fact that you can, if you haven't watched the video, if you're watching this live stream and you haven't watched the video, you're like, how does that work? I'm telling you, go watch the video. It will show you. We show screenshots. We show the light hitting Emily's face, and we show simultaneously split screens what's changing on the light, so you can see what it does. And it really adds 2 stops of diffusion and makes the light very, very, very soft. So if you look at the 2 images that are on the screen right now, you have Miss Emily on the right and the model named Saray on the left. And it really goes to show you what we can do. And to be candid, one of the main reasons why we did like a swimsuit shot is we want to show the effect that the light is having on skin, because at the end of the day, if you really want to measure light, if you really want to see how your light is impacting somebody, you need to be able to see how it's impacting their skin. And anything that's hard, guys, that's where you're going to get those specular highlights. Cheekbones, hard, if they have a hard forehead, collarbones, those things will really show when light is hard or light is soft. And that's a great barometer for you to be able to measure the quality of your light. So I absolutely love the Titan. If it's not cheap, we have a special that we're running on it only for my followers. And do you know what the code is, Rod?
Yeah, absolutely. So you go to rotolight.com, and at checkout, if you enter the code JL-Titan, for a very limited time, you're going to get 40% off that light, which is completely nuts. And it's just really a thank you to everybody with COVID and everything that's going on to say, hey, listen, we know for a lot of photographers that's top end of the budget, but with that kind of discount, it's an incredible technology, and we'd encourage you to, if you can.
Yeah, absolutely. One thing that we've always tried to do is make it to where, one thing I've always tried to do for my followers is, you guys have been there for me, and I try to push the folks that I work with to try to provide specials for you guys. It's just the truth. So if you're a filmmaker out there and you're looking to try to do more, this would be a great way to do it. It really would. I absolutely love the Titan. It's a beautiful light.
Yeah, and speaking of Jason, we've got a really exciting new offer to tell everyone about today on the EOS. So do you want to just talk to people about that quickly?
Yeah, one thing that Rod's really good at, I'm speaking to my followers here, and I thank you guys for being here. One thing Rod's really good at is he says, hey, your followers want to know what you're using and how that could translate to them. And I said, look, I love all of these lights, but realistically for a lot of folks, the EOS and the Neo 2 are really kind of, that's more applicable to them budget-wise. It's more applicable to them from a ease of use standpoint. And so with that being said, what we've done is created a special where you can get an EOS and a Neo 2 and a transmitter for the cost of just an EOS. It's pretty ridiculous. And the reason that's really cool is because it's great to have the lights, but without the transmitter, you're missing some of the effectiveness, a lot of the effectiveness of these lights. So if you go to rotolight.com/Jason offers, there's a ton of different bundles on there that we've created for my followers to be able to really, honestly, improve their lighting. This is about improving your lighting, guys. And again, in the COVID age, if you're not improving your lighting, what's happening is you're going to get passed up. You're going to get passed up, and it's going to be even more difficult to get work. I have a lot of people contact me who say, hey, we're hiring you because you know how to light. I do a lot of work for a bank in Chicago, and I do a commercial shoot for them every year. And one thing I love is that the creative director of the shoot, who organizes it every year, they say, one thing I love about you, Jason, is no matter what it is, you know how to light it. And that's why we pay you. And just so you guys know, a shoot like that is $20,000 to do the shoot, and it's a day. So I'm just letting you know that I know that people tell you don't need lights, but photography is about light. And I really want you to understand that. No matter what you buy, I want you to understand, if you want to get the most out of what you do with photography, you need to understand light. And if you can manipulate light to what your creative vision is, you're going to make more money. You're going to make yourself more valuable. It's that simple.
Jason, I had one question for you actually from Mark Terry, and I have to tell you, this is already a guy who I love. So he asks, so you or me not making money from photography, buying used mostly and paying for all the girls' clothing and stuff on a bare man's paycheck.
He's paying for their clothing?
Apparently he is.
Well, I wouldn't do that, Mark.
that just would kill me, but so what
Mark follows me
would
on
tell me
Facebook.
to
I know who
buy?
he is. He's a good guy. But no, stop paying for that. Stop paying for that. Unless it's something very specific. And Rod brought up a great point about the Jack the Ripper shoot. Emily just found a costume shop, and we got some amazing costumes for that, but we rented them. So anyways, what was his question?
One light you would tell me to buy.
Okay. I pause because there's so many variables to that. What does he already have and what does he shoot and so on and so forth. However,
Right.
if I could only get one light, it would be the AOs.
Yeah,
Hands down.
So just talking through these offers quickly, just for everybody, we've got 6 deals right now. I think one of the most exciting ones, which is brand new for today, is you buy an EOS, you're going to get the Neo 2, which is normally $300, and the transmitter, which is normally $250, completely free of charge.
That's crazy.
I mean, it is crazy. We've never done that deal before. So to get these offers, you go to rotolight.com/Jason offers, and then you enter these codes on the checkout to see the discounted price. So we're going to send an email to everybody who's subscribed to this at the end, but obviously if you're on YouTube, make a note of these deals. That's a fantastic one. If you're looking just for the Neo 2, we're also doing a deal where if you buy the Neo 2, which is regular price $300, we're going to throw in the transmitter worth $250 for free.
Wow.
Which is fantastic. The Illuminator bundle, which Jason pairs a lot with the EOS and also with the Neo, is using right now, is half price. So normally $175, it's $89.
Yeah, that's nuts, guys. You won't find it. You will not find a better modifier on the market for that money. Not even close.
No, absolutely. And also the EOS 2 light kit. I mean, that's a great kit because you get 2 EOSs, stands, you get the Illuminator, and we're throwing in 2 battery bundles also. So we're actually doing, that price is normally $3,000. We're doing $1,500 off that kit. So it's $1,499.
Yeah, there's a lot of amazing stuff on here. And I'm going to say something, but this is just based on my style of photography and what I do. But the two light kit from the EOS gives you so much flexibility because those are 2 powerful portable lights. It gives you a backlight and it gives you a key light. It's really pretty incredible. And the same can be said for the EOS with the free Neo 2 because it gives you the ability to do what I just said. It gives you the ability to light what I'm lighting here. And let me show you. So if you take that away, you can still see that was adding accent lighting. You still see the beautiful lighting that's hitting me here, and it looks really good.
So I've got a couple of questions coming in, Jason, for how does this work in different currencies? If I just share this screen right now. So these are the deals. We've talked a lot about US dollars, so you can see the US dollar prices here. Likewise in euros, so the 2 main sort of offers Jason just talked about there, the 2 light kit is normally 2,700 euros. It's 1,300 euros now, which is a huge discount. It's the same discounts in different currencies. Likewise, the EOS bundle with the Neo 2 and the transmitters normally 1,460 euros. That's now 950. And pounds, obviously we're a British company, so pounds. 2 light kits normally 2,200 plus VAT. It's 1,100 in the sale.
Wow.
And likewise, that EOS Neo 2 transmitter normally 1,300 is 850 in the sale. So
that's crazy.
There's some fantastic deals. We'll send an email out to everybody, but if you go onto rotolight.com, you enter these codes here for the offers, and you'll see if you go to rotolight.com/Jason offers, it has all the codes. When you enter the code at the checkout, then you'll see the discount. A couple of people are asking for the Titan code again. So that's JL-Titan.
If y'all have money, man, that Titan's ridiculous. I'm telling you.
So I'm going to hand back to Mr. Dirk now. Dirk, we got some other questions coming in?
Yeah, actually, a lot of people are asking if you can fire like one Neo or one AEOS on like multiple transmitters, if you're using like multiple cameras. Is that something you ever do, Jason, or you just keep it to one camera and never use like multiple cameras?
Well, if you wanted to fire multiple cameras, that's a whole different ballgame. You'd have to have like triggers set up to fire I don't know if that's question. I'd have to read the question to really know what they're asking.
I think what they're saying. So if they have like two cameras, so for sake two A7 IIs, and with different lenses on them, and they just want to switch real quickly.
Oh,
and
they just want to switch between cameras.
You know, so.
No. If you do that, then you just put the transmitter on either camera. Doesn't matter.
Right.
The only thing about the A7 IIIs is you should know is there's a weird setting on there for your flash that you have to change in the menu system, but that's getting techy. But in regards to, that's for any flash, not Rotolight. But yeah, if you have the transmitter, you can switch it between cameras and you'll be good to go.
And we make transmitters for with Elincrom now for all of the brands. So you've got Nikon, Canon, Sony, Fuji, Olympus, Panasonic. So everything's.
You can use them for anything. It's really nice.
Yeah.
So it's really, really nice. Yeah.
I have another question here from Recon from YouTube. They say that polarizers don't stop the light, but my experience through my hand meter readings way off. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, that's why I don't use polarizers, because they do actually change the exposure on your camera. So I just don't use them.
All right. So I can see Miguel is asking here, Jason. I mean, I know the answer, but just for everybody's benefit, do you like using EOS and Neo 2s for studio headshots?
Oh, absolutely. And I'm not trying to be funny with what I'm about to say right now, guys. If you followed me at all, you'll know that I had hip surgery 3 months ago. I actually have physical issues, and that needs to be said, because those physical issues have led to a lot of the gear that I utilize, to be real. And there's a lot of other people who have physical issues. So if you're asking me if I can, pull out a Neo 2 and an EOS or an EOS and get something done, and it's going to put less of a toll on my ankles, my hip, whatever it may be, then I'm going to use it. That's just the truth. So I'll also say I've met a hell of a lot of people at my workshops who have physical disabilities. I mean, a lot of people who come to the workshops have had some physical ailments. And so I know that mirrorless cameras and using lights that are easier to use takes away the wear and tear on what you do. If you watch the video that I do with the wrap video, you'll see at the end of the video I'm limping pretty good. So the COVID has impacted my rehab on my hip. I haven't been able to do physical therapy. There's a lot of things that are happening to people right now because of what's going on. So just if I can use a smaller footprint, it makes a big difference.
I've seen a question come in. I think they were talking about the picture behind me here of the girl, just asking what was the light that was used to take that. That was actually a Nova Pro in a studio environment. He actually used multiple Novas for rim and backlight, but continuous mode and Nova Pro. That's the answer.
Diane said, you stated you have more than one filter in the Neo. Is that correct? Yes. In fact, I'll show you guys. If we've got I put like a few of them in there. So this is a trick that I'll utilize. I'll take all these different diffusers. And so instead of just one little diffuser on the light, I'm actually using, a lot, and it diffuses the light that much more. Makes a difference.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, just to clarify for people about that, we with every single Neo 2 in the kit, you get a pack of 4 filters. You get the same thing with EOS and a Nova. And so what you get inside that kit is you get a soft, quite light, regular white diffusion. You get a stronger white, and you also get this one, which is my personal favorite. Jason loves this one, which is Cosmetic Peach. It makes them look a bit prettier.
Yeah, I know. It takes a lot. I need to add like 5 of those to make myself look attractive.
It's almost like an airbrush with a little bit of skin tone in it. So that's the best. And then, you know, Jason uses these quite a lot, the add-on color filters. So you've seen him, we did a shoot in a wind tunnel, which was crazy, where we used like purples and blues and pinks. And we had in the shot earlier, you saw Jason used a great kind of blue. So the creative filters can be really fun, actually, just to add some creativity to your shoots.
Yeah, and just again, back to what we were saying earlier, I want photographers to understand I'm somebody who's fully embraced technology and change and everything else. It's what's led me to LEDs and mirrorless and everything else. But basing everything that we do off of Photoshop alone isn't the answer. It really isn't. We should be utilizing the skills that we have, you know, to create better work. And if you can slap a simple filter on it and get some beautiful tones like you see me doing here, it makes a big difference. It's also a great lesson in that, you know, for video work, you can't do all that CGI stuff unless you're Steven Spielberg. So, I mean, adding the nice, you know, orange tone to this, if I wasn't trying to show the light and show what it's doing because this is educational, I would just move the light off camera a little bit and have it paint the wall. And it would just be really nice accent lighting. You really can do a lot of stuff with these lights.
We've got a question coming from Marjorie, Jason, who's asking what accessories do you recommend with the EOS or the Neo, and specifically with the illuminator bundle, if that's the answer. She's asking also, how do you mount it inside? I mean, the bundle we're doing, just so you're aware, Jason, comes with the bracket.
Well, again, there's a video on that, but what you guys can do is the mounting, what's going to be very important is that you mount it from the bottom, and that when you use the umbrella bracket, you have to tilt that umbrella bracket down and load the stem of the umbrella through. If you don't do that, it's going to be very difficult. It's a very simple step, but it's a very crucial step. So you got to tilt the angle of the, I don't know, I could do it for you guys live if you want, but I mean, you got to tilt it down. Here, okay, whatever, what the hell.
By the way, Rod, the codes are all working right now, right, on our website?
Yes, they are. Yeah.
Great. Because Simon said he tried to code for the Illuminator bundle and didn't work.
I'll double check, Simon, but if you send an email, if there's any issues, just send us an email to sales@rotolight.com and we'll get that rectified right away, but it should be working now.
All right, guys. So here's the light. Here's the bracket. When you load it, right, here's the stem of the umbrella, okay? This needs to go through. So when you load it, I have the illuminator. You're gonna first load the light. So I'll just do the whole process for you guys real quick. Okay. So you have the C-stand, right here. You have the C-stand. You're gonna load it into this. Tighten it down. Now with the illuminator, the key part that you need to understand is you have to mount it through the bottom white part here. Okay, then you're gonna take it. Here's the illuminator. You're gonna take it down, put it over like that. Okay. Now here's the part that people need to understand to really get the most out of this. If you try to force the rod right here, force that stem, it's gonna bend and you can't do that. You need to take the light, take the bracket, angle it down, and now you can load the stem of the umbrella very easily. Actually, I put it down too much. And now you can just feed it right through. And that's how you do it. And you tighten it back up. And it's up to where you want it. Tighten her up. Play this over. Now your modifier set up.
That's awesome. I've just checked everyone and the codes are definitely live, so that's all good. Manuel asks, how does the Rotolight compare in terms of sync speed? So it's saying, can it do 1/8,000th of a second? I mean, the answer is yes. You know, it syncs up to 1/8,000th of a second. Where this is relevant, in fact, Jason and I did a shoot in a gardens outdoor, and you know, Jason loves to shoot wide open, 1.4, etc. Yep. And of course, you know, in the midday sunshine. Just talk a little bit about, Jason, why you would need high-speed sync in that situation.
Well, you want high-speed sync so you can actually separate your background. So if you don't shoot high-speed sync, your shots are going to look a lot like cell phone shots. So cell phones are getting better and better and better and better at taking shots these days. So if you are not utilizing high-speed sync, you're not really giving them that professional look. So that's what you want to do, guys. And you want to be able to take it and shoot at a wider aperture. The only way you can shoot at a wider aperture is if you can shoot at a faster shutter speed. So you want to make sure that you're shooting in high-speed sync because it gives you the ability to really widen your aperture.
And so David is also asking how to do that. So I mean, just to clarify for people also, you know, if you're wondering and you haven't used it before, what high-speed sync is, you know, every single camera has an internal sync speed.
Right.
Depending on the camera, it could be anything from a 1/60th or 2/50th.
Yeah, the cheaper cameras will be 1/60th, 1/160th. The mid-level cameras will be a 200ths of a second, 2/50th of a second. That kind of tends to be where they top out. So you're going to want to use a camera that you know, you can use it with anything really, but if you have a flash sync speed and it's stuck, then that means that you're going to be shooting at f8. Means you're going to be shooting at f10 or f6.3. But if you have a high-speed sync flash, it enables the camera to go over that sync speed and gives you great results.
If you don't have high-speed sync, you'll know about it because you start seeing a black portion of the frame where the light wasn't illuminating into the shutter release. So you'll find out pretty quick. And
you'll find two things. It'll have like the letterbox on widescreen movies. It'll have that. And or on some cameras, it just won't allow you to move your shutter once you've applied a transmitter on top. It won't allow you to move your shutter speed faster than the sync speed, so it'll be stuck at 200.
Yeah, very, very good. We've got a question saying, what Titan rental houses do we have in the UK? So you can actually rent this directly with Rotolight. So if you get in touch, sales@rotolight.com, we're happy to help you out. But we are talking to a number of rental houses, and if you let us know where you are, we can direct you to the best place right now. Dirk, we got any other questions we want to put to Jason?
I got a question here from Nicholas. He's asking, can I also use an ND filter or natural density filter? I wouldn't know why not in any case, but
yeah, absolutely. You could use a neutral density filter. In fact, if you did, it would actually increase the power on the light from a power ratio perspective, because that would be the same technique they would utilize in cinematography. So yeah, you could absolutely use neutral density filters. Yeah.
Cool. Then I think I've got a question here for you, Rod. How does the Rotolight compare to transition light with high-speed sync? Can it fire up to 8,000 shutter speed?
Yeah, we were talking about that. So all of the Rotolights, including the Titan, which is super cool, by the way, we're going to do a video with this with Jason shortly. All of the Rotolights do high-speed sync up to 1/8,000th of a second. So it allows you to freeze action. And more importantly, and that there's a shoot you can see online where we did a shoot with Jason. He's shooting 1.4 in the middle of the day. And if he was having to shoot, you know, the shot was taken in 1/640th of a second. And without the ability for the EOS to fire in high-speed sync, it would just have blown out the background. And
yeah, it's going to blow out the background. And also, too, if you're shooting anything that's fast action, shooting in high-speed sync is very important.
Absolutely. What are the questions do you guys have? Anything you want to put to Jason? Burning questions on photography or lighting. I mean, whilst we're here, Jason, a quick one. Can you give us a couple of quick fire tips for photographers who are looking to emulate the Jason Lanier with the social media? You know, it's so important nowadays, Instagram and Facebook. Are there any top tips you have for people?
You know, that's a wonderful question. Social media is a tricky one. I would say first and foremost, just be genuine. Be genuine with your audience. Be comfortable with who you are, and be ready to share that with the world. Take on the understanding that the more you share, the more people are going to want to know, and the more people will delve into every aspect of what you're doing, and that's just out of pure interest. But I would say be consistent, be genuine, and make sure to do everything that you can to deliver things to people that they want to see. One thing I've always told people at workshops, because we'll do one-on-one reviews of people's social media and stuff when they come to the workshops, is I'll take a look at their social media, and they'll tell me, I'm a wedding photographer. I'm like, well, your social media doesn't show that you're a wedding photographer. Well, yeah, I know, but I don't do that. And I said, well, what if you meet, a person and you say, hey, they tell you they're getting married, and you're like, oh, okay, here's my business card. And they go to your social media. Nowadays, people, they're not going to your website. They're not going to anything else. The first thing that the age range of millennials, which are the vast majority of people purchasing photography services at this point in time, they're going to your social media first. So make sure that your Instagram, especially Instagram, matches what you're trying to sell. And if it doesn't, you're going to have a hard time. You really are. So be consistent. Make sure to post, at least 3 or 4 times a week. And also keep this in mind. You can do a shoot, and I see people, they'll do a shoot and they'll post all the shots, or they'll only post one of the shot from the entire shoot. You can post shoots or shots from one shoot, and you can spread them out over the course of 2 or 3 days, which will really help extend the life of that shoot and the ROI on what you did. So when it comes to social media, I would really understand that if you don't take the time to do social media, you are not going to have business.
Absolutely. I mean, there's some great tips there, Jason. Much appreciated. We've got a couple of questions coming in. I can jump in on this one where someone said, could you compare the Titan to the ARRI SkyPanel S60? I mean, first thing to say, obviously the ARRI is a great product. They've been around a long time, but it's a 5-year-old technology. The SkyPanel came out 2015, and what we've tried to do with the Titan is to really bring out a light that was uniquely innovative. So firstly, it's at a distance beyond 3 meters, it's anywhere between 50% to 150% brighter than the SkyPanel S60. It has electronic diffusion. I mean, that's never been done before. So you think about that, you don't have to use a softbox. You could have lights on a truss in the ceiling. You're not going to go up and manually adjust each lamp. You can adjust that light anywhere. It's like a 216 diffusion with a dial.
And you guys have an app that you can use to be able to move that, right, with your phone?
Absolutely. So we have a software update coming next week, completely free to all customers, where you can now use the Titan with the Luminaire app to control it from an iPhone or iPad, which is super cool. And a couple other things. It's the first.
And that's really cool too, because if I'm sitting there and I'm looking at my set and my light's over there, if I'm having to walk to the light each time and then turn the light, adjust the light, and then walk back, I'm having to go back and forth to see what effects it's having. It's going to be amazing once that update comes through, to actually take my phone and to set the entire set and then move the lighting parameters, and I get it exactly where I want. You can stand exactly where you want to be and control it with your phone. That's awesome.
It absolutely is. And, I think so, overall, to summarize, it's the brightest light out there, electronic diffusion. And we've tried to add features in like touch screen so that it's simple. You don't have to go into a menu of a menu of a menu to find filters or special effects. It's accessible instantly.
Yeah, I'll say that much. When I got the Titan, it was like, wow, this is a lot to learn. And even though I've shot Rotolight for years, I'm like, this is a huge, huge light. And then I looked at it, and I just, instead of doing anything else, I just started playing around with the screen, and I'm like, oh, this is actually really easy. So if I can figure it out, anybody can.
Dirk, anything else that's coming in that we want to put to Jason?
Yeah, I got a question here from Miguel Gomez. Tags on YouTube ? How ? I always get an error.
Huh?
Do you use hashtags in your videos?
Yeah. Do you use hashtags in your YouTube?
Yeah, I think hashtags are pretty important. You know, the most frustrating thing about hashtags and social media is that, you know, YouTube and Facebook and Instagram and everybody else, all they do is keep changing the algorithms to make more money and to slow down organic reach. So all you can do, it's frustrating for everyone out there, my friends. All I can say is just keep plugging away, try to learn what the new algorithms are. And, you know, it's don't get frustrated too when you see some folks who are doing a lot better than you are, because some of those folks are using a lot of paid advertising to be able to get where they are. And I have nothing against that, but that's just the reality of it. And, you know, Rotolight and anybody else will tell you a lot of the times, in order for you to be able to get your product seen, you have to sponsor posts. That's just the way that all of these supposedly free social media outlets have migrated to. Is now it's almost a pay to play.
Right.
Yeah. Absolutely.
I think we're running a little bit out of questions here.
Well, that's good, because I'm feeling like we did a wonderful session. I'm incredibly grateful. Thank you to Dirk, and especially to Rod and the Rotolight team. Thank you for having me. I can't thank all of you watching enough for sticking around. We've been going for an hour and a half now, and I really, really appreciate all of you out there. I just want to say that I am fully aware that I wouldn't be where I'm at without all of you. And I understand that, and I respect that, and I'm incredibly grateful for that. And hopefully we provide something for you guys that's beneficial to you. So thank you so much for watching, guys. Until next time, keep shooting. Never give up on your dreams. Find the right gear that works for you, and remember, you only have one chance to get it right. We'll talk to you guys later. Bye.
Thanks, guys.